So welcome to the Business Made Simple podcast with me, Hayley Koseoglu from IECOS. These podcasts are all about helping you with hints and tips on how you can improve and grow your business and take it to the next level. Today I have got with me Claire Taylor-Foster from Raspberry Flamingo. You are a marketing specialist. So Claire, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, I can do. So Raspberry Flamingo was born because I'd had an accident and didn't know if I was going to be able to walk again. So basically thought, what can I do from behind a laptop, just in case I'm not mobile? Looked back through my whole career. I started my first job after education was in a advertising agency. I'm not going to tell you the decade because it was way too long ago. Most people who watch this won't have been born. And I'd carried marketing all the way through, basically, all the way through my career. And so I thought, what one element did I particularly enjoy? And it was always the copywriting, the content writing, things like that. So Raspberry Flamingo happened because I just emailed loads of business people I knew and said, if I do this, would you give me some work? And I got some work. Couldn't start it because I was still recovering from my accident and on loads of medication, but I got some work. And then COVID hit and it exploded because people who couldn't go out to work were suddenly looking at the websites and the marketing and going, we can work on this because we're stuck at home. And so I took on my first writer then, and it sort of snowballed from then. So Raspberry Flamingo, as the content marketing agency, look after people's web copy, their blogs, their socials, things like that. And then I was approached by the British Manufacturing Consortium to become their director. Which basically means running it, but also creating the new brand, putting the new website, all of that. From that, I was then asked to be a marketing consultant for one of their member companies. From that, I was then asked to be a marketing consultant for one of their associate companies. And then in the last few months, I've taken a few contracts where companies have got somebody responsible for marketing, but who aren't a marketing expert. So it's somebody who's just taken over their marketing. So I go in and supervise them and work on the plan and the strategy and etc. So, it's a very varied, mixed workload.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So do you find that happens a lot, that people just sort of inherit marketing within companies and don't actually have expertise in it?
Particularly smaller companies.
Yeah.
So if a director's got qualifications in marketing or experience in marketing, then they tend to take on a marketing apprentice. But they don't always have time to supervise because they're a director and they can't be holding somebody's hand. Or the couple of clients that I've got, there's somebody in the building that's just gone, shouldn't we be doing more socials? And from that comment or something, they've gone, yep, you do the marketing. And they've perhaps done an online course or something, just to get a feel for it. But they've no real expertise in it. And if they know what they're doing, they'll do it. But you need to tell them what they need to do. Work it through with them. It's quite interesting with smaller companies.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. And I think as well, the thing that I find when I'm working with my clients is marketing and branding. It's bigger than just social media. So I see a lot of people just, we're doing all this stuff on social media. It's like, but marketing is a multifaceted department. It isn't as simple as just doing a few posts on social media each week. And it's ironic because I've recently had this exact conversation with a client going, well, all you're doing is social media. That's not marketing. You've got the content and the copy and the SEO and the website and visuals and
plan
and
business priorities.
The email marketing and the blogs and the sale and the outbound sales approach and everything else. And there is so much around marketing that people don't
100%.
sort of see, isn't there? So what would you say is probably the most common pain point that you see for businesses, and why is marketing and branding such a pain point for small business?
I think just because it's not something they go into the business thinking about. People think about sales when they first start up a business because you've got to, haven't you? Let's face it.
Absolutely.
And most people go, oh, let's have a logo and a company name. That's my marketing.
Yeah.
They don't realise that that's not even branding.
No.
You know, that's a tiny element of a brand. And so I think it's just that it's not thought about. And I also think that people, they set up a business and in a lot of cases, you'll say, who's your target market? Who specifically do you want to market to? And they'll go, anybody can use my services. Anybody could buy my product. And they don't understand that unless you've got a focused marketing attempt, you're not going to be talking to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the big problems as well. People go, I don't want a narrow marketplace, but you've got to aim your message at somebody.
Yeah, it's that sort of old adage of, you know, you've got to niche everything down, and they're worried about niching down because they don't want to sort of exclude anybody. But actually, from a marketing perspective, you need that clearly defined
You just need
target.
a target audience, and then you'll get everybody else anyway, because everybody else will still see it.
Yeah.
But the ones that you're going to have the best relationships with, make the most money of, that are going to become ambassadors of your brand, that's who you need to be talking to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. So we have spoken quite a lot about marketing, and obviously there's elements to it. And the word sort of authentic is became quite a buzzword, especially I think during COVID, and you know, when social media sort of first became a more popular thing. What do you think about sort of authentic marketing and branding?
So for me, being authentic is being true. You know, I mean, it's as simple as that. People who, particularly now with AI, people who run everything through AI, and so their marketing no longer sounds like them.
Yes.
That's not authentic.
Yeah.
Because when somebody picks up the phone to you or meets you in person, they're going to be really surprised
Yeah.
with who you are. And I can give you an example of a company I know. I'm on their email marketing list. I get their emails. And one individual from that company used to write the emails. And their English wasn't the best.
Okay.
Right? And that was fine. That was absolutely fine because it was part of the personality of the company. And then all of a sudden, they're perfect.
Yeah.
And they're so AI generated, and they're using AI for the socials as well, and it's really obvious.
Yeah.
And so I know it saves people time. I get that. And I'm not saying don't run what you've written through AI to make sure it's correct. If you want to do that, or use it for your research or your structure or anything like that. But when you lose your tone of voice, when you've had a very specific tone of voice, that's not authentic.
No. Yeah, I think it's really difficult now to tell between one or the other, unless, like you say, it's massively obvious. I've got a client who sometimes replies to me himself, and then other times replies with AI, and I can tell the difference.
Yeah,
It's like,
you can.
Because the wording, the language, and everything is totally different.
But if a company is not using authentic marketing, when somebody actually buys from them, meets them, use their services, they're gonna go, what's this? This isn't what I would thought I was buying into.
Yeah, and it's having that consistency.
Yeah, and part of your brand is how people feel about you and about your services and about your company. It's how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And if they're confused by you.
Super. So we'll move on to some of the questions that we've had in from people who have reached out to ask sort of in terms of branding and advice, marketing, specifically. So how does a small business find out who their ideal customer is?
So the way I always ask people to do this is really simple. Think of who you've already worked with, where it's been a great relationship. You've communicated well with one another. They've paid you on time, because let's face it, till somebody pays you, they're not actually a customer. They've paid you on time. The service or the product has gone really well, and they love you and they talk about you to other people.
Yeah.
Think of who they are. And that's your ideal customer. You know, it doesn't matter whether you've had 2 customers or 500 customers. If there's one that stands out, they're going to be your ideal customer.
Yeah. So a tool that I've used in the past is to sort of just get a list, a spreadsheet or a list of all the sort of existing clients that
Yeah.
you've worked with, and not and then sort of in the columns next to write sort of what their industry is, and roughly what their client value is, or how much they spend per month or per annum, and then look at whether or not you've got any common denominators in any of those, because you might
Yeah.
find you've got a bulk of clients that are in construction, for example, or a bulk of clients that are in engineering, and actually then you know a bit more about your sort of your target audience.
For an established business, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, but for a smaller business just starting out, thinking about it, who your ideal client is, just think of who the best client is, who you've enjoyed working with most, that everything's gone well with. Perfect.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it really simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone says be authentic. What does that really mean?
I think, use me as an example.
Yeah.
People go, oh, you're very on brand. No, my brand was built on me. My hair's been this colour for longer than Raspberry Flamingos existed. You know, I've always worn lots of pink. I think be authentic is be yourself. If your English isn't the best, don't run it through AI to correct it unless it's a tender for a massive contract. You know, don't make things too perfect. When you're recording a video, it doesn't matter if you say or pause or stumble over your words and correct yourself, because that's authentically you. You know, the most traction with marketing with videos and things is the raw ones, not the perfectly cut, rehearsed, retaken, reshot. You know, people want to see who you are, and who's behind a brand. So just be you.
Absolutely, I agree. So is branding just logos and colours? Where should I start?
So I am not a branding expert. I work with branding experts. I've got 2 that I work with every day of the week. But absolutely not. Your logo is part of your visual identity, which is part of your brand. You know, if you think of your brand, it's everything. It's everything that people recognise. It's how you make people feel. So, you know, McDonald's is recognised globally because of the golden arches. But actually, it doesn't matter if somebody recognises the golden arch. If they've had a terrible experience in McDonald's, they're not going to go back. You know? And so it's everything. It's how somebody feels when they've used your service or bought your product. And it's all the elements in between. It's everything. Your brand just encompasses everything.
It does, absolutely. So I post regularly on social media, but nothing ever seems to land. What am I doing wrong?
It might be landing and you don't know. Because all the research shows that it's the people who silently watch you that turn into your clients. So your biggest supporters on social media are usually people you know. They're the ones that comment, and that's great, because if they're commenting and sharing, more people are seeing your posts. So I'm not saying don't encourage that at all. But most people find that it's the silent lurkers that actually end up buying. I had a call a few months ago from somebody who said, I need this doing, and I see you on social media. And I just thought, let's call you. You're in my network. I've had nothing to do with that person. I didn't know they'd even seen a post. They've never liked anything. They've never commented on it. So I think the important thing is not to get hung up on likes, on comments, on share. It's vanity metrics.
Absolutely.
It's just vanity metrics. Essential. So, you know, social media is essential these days, but don't get hung up on what's happening and what's not happening, because your clients are likely to be the quiet ones.
So I tend to look at social media as it's kind of you have to have it from a credentials perspective. It's almost sort of where people go to check you out these days. You know, it used to be more around, you know, what they've got on Google and what was on Companies House, but now people will go, oh, what's the social media? If they've not got social media, they're not a business, kind of thing. But I do think there's you know, it's there from a visual and from a keeping you relevant, keeping you in people's visual, so that essentially when they think, oh, I need a particular kind of service, oh yeah, I remember seeing such and such on social media, and actually I'll give them a call and see if there's anything they can do. And I've been to networking events where people have said, oh, I've seen you on social media. I'm like, I think, oh my God.
Same here.
What did I say, or what did I do? But, you know, I think it's become sort of a fundamental part of my marketing now, as for all of my companies, as is for most companies. But, you know, I don't ever expect to get any sales from it, but it's just there sort of running in the background like everything else.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. I think people will come to you because of your social media. I think most people have had that. And some companies can do incredibly well and build their business on social media. It depends on the type of business.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of trades guys I know built their business on social media.
Yeah.
You know, because if they're in everybody's feed as an electrician, as a plumber, as a decorator, whatever it might be, all of a sudden, when you need that service, I remember seeing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it depends on the type of business, the effect it has. But most people, they're the quiet ones that'll come and buy from you.
Yeah. I think as well with social media, there is the risk that people use that almost as their website now, and all of the data and all of the ownership is within sort of a particular media platform, and
100%.
when that platform then goes down, what's the backup plan?
Or they delete your profile, because they can,
because I've seen it a couple of times where, you know, like Facebook, for example, has gone down for a period of time, and they're like, oh my God, you know, everything stopped. And it's like, well, that's why you should have other sources of collecting that data, so you're not just relying on one single platform. And that's why I think people say, oh, you know, you don't need a website anymore. And I think, well, you do actually, because, you know, you can get websites relatively affordably now compared to
100%,
once upon a time when I started my business. If you didn't have a degree in Dreamweaver, you couldn't have a website because it was just so complex and it was unbelievably expensive. Whereas nowadays you can get them done relatively, whether they're fantastic or not, I don't know, but you can get them done relatively cheaply to have that sort of status, you know, and that actual website. But I just think it's important to still have a backup place for where you can sort of collect information rather than just relying on a social media platform.
It's exactly right. You don't own your contacts on social media. If you can collect somebody's email address and details through your website to email market, you do own that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So do I need to be on every social media platform because it feels so overwhelming?
No. Simple no. Think about, if you know who your ideal customer is, where are they hanging out? Is your service very visual or not? Because if you're very visual, you know, something like Instagram, TikTok might be much better for you than the LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But if your potential clients are on LinkedIn, why worry about Instagram?
Yeah.
You know, and your tone of voice and how you post needs to be different as well. I see a lot people just putting the same post out on every platform, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So, you know, stick to what you know works or what you think will work. If it doesn't, try something else. But if you're going to use different platforms, use them in the correct way for that platform.
Yeah.
Don't just blanket put posts out, because that doesn't work.
No. Okay.
But again, don't get hung up on it.
Yeah.
Just go for one, see how it goes. Perhaps add a second one in, try it, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, I always say for a lot of my clients, you know, I always say if you're B2C, look at like the Facebook and the Instagram sort of, you know, and TikTok, obviously, because that's all the rage now, which makes me feel like a dinosaur saying that, because I mean, Facebook was only just born when I started my first company. But then if you're more B2B focused, I tend to focus more on the LinkedIn, because that is where sort of more business people and sort of more professionals, if you will, are sort of hanging out, if you want to use that.
I think that's absolutely right, but there are exceptions. So I went to an asphalt company, and they're having fantastic success with Instagram. Selling tarmac. And aggregates. So, you know, you just never know. Just try these things. But no, if you're starting out, one platform, go for it, see how it goes, add another one into the mix if you think you can. Yeah.
Where do you stand on you have to do multiple posts a day or so many posts in a week?
It depends on the platform.
Yeah.
It depends on the algorithm of the platform. LinkedIn, for example, just wants consistency.
Yeah.
So if you're going to post 3 times a week, post 3 times a week. Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn, apparently Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturday mornings are your best times for any post, according to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I know people who have massive success posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
So, and my most successful post ever was on a Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, sat in an airport.
Oh.
So, yeah, just try and be consistent with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want your marketing to actually gain traction,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a fundamental thing through all marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Consistency is key. Not to use the phrase.
Yes.
The cliche.
Consistency is king and content is queen, apparently.
Oh, consistency is king, content is queen. I like that. There you go. So we're just going to go on to a little bit about sort of branding and strategy around that. So what do you think, branding includes? Obviously, things like tone of voice, and it's not just, as we were saying before, it's not just about colours and
No, your visuals are one thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Having a logo that represents the company. One of the branding experts I work with always says, if you're getting bored of your logo, that's when people are recognising it, so don't change it.
Ah, yes.
And I will take that piece of advice from them because they know what they're talking about. I'm not creative from a visual point of view. I can use Canva, sorry, branding experts, to create a social media post. But, I would never design a brand or a logo or a leaflet even.
Yeah.
That's not my bag. But your brand, so you've obviously got the visual, the colours, the fonts, your logo, all of that sort of thing, your website design, all that comes into branding. You've then got your tone of voice, which is, talking to your prospect, not talking from you. So it's got to represent your personality, but you've got to use the words and the tone of voice that somebody who's reading it is going to want to read. You've got to make it interesting to them. And that's, again, where a lot of companies fall down. The worst thing you can do is write your own. Even I don't write my own copy because I'm too close to my business and too close to myself, almost. And so it's important that somebody else who is looking in at my business as a customer writes it for me. Yeah. You write as you think, and and you use the terms that you would use. And does your actual target audience understand the terms you use? Particularly if you're in a technical type of business.
Yeah.
You've got to keep it simple, and sometimes that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important with your tone of voice that, yes, if you're a fun, funky company, that comes over, but use the words that your audience understand.
Yeah.
And use those sorts of nice short sentences and easy to read and all that sort of thing. So yes, you've got tone of voice. You've got all your visuals, but again, it's the touch points as well in your customer journey. So you're not leaving a gap somewhere. I realised at one point that from somebody booking us to you do web copy to us actually starting it, there was a few weeks.
Okay.
And I realised that actually we didn't get in touch with them during those few weeks. They knew when we were going to be writing it, but we left them alone.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's not giving them the best feeling about us. So, we put some automated touch points in just to keep in touch with them. So your brand is everything. It's the visual, it's the feeling, it's the care, it's just everything. Yeah, it encompasses everything.
Super. How do I know if my marketing is actually working?
There are various ways of analysing your marketing. You've got to, so, some people with social media, for example, they never look at their analytics. Or the website, they never look at their analytics. And it's so important. as I say, social media, I think is, like I said, it's vanity metrics. However, it's worth looking to see what type of posts are getting the most interaction, because those are the ones you want to either repurpose or put more out in the same vein. But I do think a lot of the social media analytics is vanity metrics. However, your website analytics completely different. So if you're using Google Analytics, which you should be, it's a simple plugin to your website. It will tell you how many people have visited in what period. It will tell you what country they've visited from. It will tell you what pages they've visited. You can even get it down to how long somebody's spent on your website or on a particular page. That's really important. Because if you've got a service or a product that lots of people are looking at that page on your website, but they're not buying or inquiring, something's not hitting the mark with it. So you can revise it. Same with email marketing. You need to be looking at the report. You need to see how many people have opened it. Did they open it straight away? Or did they open it later on? Did they click through? What happened next? Try these things like with social media posts. Try them at different times of day. Try sending your emails out at different times of day and seeing if you get peaks and troughs of people opening. You could say if people are buying services, your marketing's working.
Yeah.
And it is as simple as that. And if you're going down the pay-per-click route and you've got a formal sales funnel where you start with your marketing and it ends with conversion, you can work out costs and percentages and all those sorts of things. Whatever type of marketing you're using to drive your sales, use the analytics.
Yeah.
See what works, see what's not working, try something else, see if it works better, see if it performs better. It's all trial and error at first.
Yeah, I feel like it is trial and error all the way through, you know, and it takes a while for marketing to actually have an impact and reach the right audience. And it is very test and measure for the first sort of 6 to 12 months, I feel, because people do marketing and go, well, I'm doing all the marketing, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's not just you're not just gonna do the marketing, you're gonna get a client the next day, because marketing doesn't work like that. It takes time. They need those regular touch points. They need to sort of see and hear and feel the brand and the message, and it needs to hit home to them for whatever it is that they need assistance with. But something I try to do with my clients and something I do internally in my own company is actually look at all of the inquiries that we've had over a time period. So I normally pick like a 12-month window and say, well, these are all the inquiries we've had. How did these people find out about us, and what was their source of inquiry? And a lot of them, for the cleaning company, come through pay-per-click and all the work we do on Google and the SEO and all the rest of it. But we also get quite a lot from word of mouth, recommendation, referral, which is traditionally people that have met us at networking or clients that already work with us. So, you can spend a heck of a lot of money in areas of marketing that actually aren't really feeding clients into your business. So often I try to get people to stop and regularly review all the activities you're doing, but more importantly, where are your clients coming from? And what's the most effective form of marketing that you're doing? And maybe if it is networking, or if it is your website, or if it is social media, then you plug slightly more time and more energy and more effort into those areas because they're clearly already working. And that's not to say, don't do the emails and don't do all the other stuff, because that's obviously part of it. But it's one not to spend so much time looking at and worrying about, although it's good to have, because it's an extra touch point, like we said before.
Well, you've got to build trust. So that takes time.
It does, yeah.
And it takes consistency. And that's the importance about the tone of voice thing. Make it consistent, because if suddenly you're using AI and then you're writing in your own and somebody's confused, that's not building trust. Google now want you to show your expertise, your authority, your trustworthiness. And so that's really important even on your website, because they're actually ranking your website, as part of your SEO down to that. But the other, as you've said, find out where they come from. And that's why building landing pages with QR codes is so important. So you actually know where somebody's landed when you look at your website pages. If a page only can be accessed through a QR code, it's working. If you've got a special offer or something, have a code, discount code, or an offer code, and then you can track that as well.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing ads, it's particularly good if there is a code or something like that, because you can track it.
Can see.
So it's exactly what you said. It's about building trust and being able to track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super. So what is the difference, in your opinion, between a brand identity and a brand voice?
Your brand identity includes your brand voice, realistically.
Okay.
Because your tone of voice that you talk to people in, etc., is part of your brand, and your brand identity is almost everything, because it's even what people feel, But most people talk about brand identity as the visuals. Your logo, your colours, as I said, website design, things like that. But for me, tone of voice is part of that identity. So yes, if you're looking at tone of voice as a project, what is our tone of voice? You wouldn't be looking at your colours necessarily or your logo.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at brand identity, tone of voice is part of it.
Yeah, and it all goes back to that authenticity again, isn't it? And just being true to who you are, and those company values, and making sure it's consistent. So, I'm not creative. Can I still build a strong brand?
Yeah, of course you can. You do.
I do. Yeah.
Well, you're not talking about you then.
Yeah, no, I'm not creative. I'm not creative at all. But I think, so for me personally, I don't particularly like marketing and sales and the creative side of it, purely because I'm not massively creative. So I can look at something and go, wow, that looks awesome, or that looks really cool. And visually, I can look at the detail of it and go, that works or it doesn't work. But actually putting that together and creating it just isn't something that is within my skill set. So I outsource it because it's just easier. And I have spent hours, days, in fact, on Canva trying to get, a box in the right specific place. And you waste so much time. And I think that's where it comes back to the power of outsourcing things that aren't your skill set, whether it's marketing or anything else in your business, is so important, because you can waste so much time trying to figure out how to get this tiny box in the right place on Canva, to then only have to pay somebody else to fix it when you've spent all that time doing it in the first place. So yeah, I do think that just because you're not creative doesn't mean you can't create something.
I think people are creative in different ways as well.
Yes.
So I would probably say I'm not creative if you were talking about visuals, because I'm no graphic designer. I really am not. Lining things up. No. I don't see what a graphic designer would see.
Yeah.
And so I outsource all of that, because I'm not even going to try. People say I'm creative because I can write creatively.
Yes.
Other people are creative because they can design a hat.
Yeah.
You can be creative in lots and lots of different ways. And so I think anybody can market, but marketing is so huge. There's such a wide skill set involved in marketing. Nobody I know in marketing can do everything to the same standard.
Yeah.
And that's why we all form little teams. I'm part of a networking group, and we've got 3 marketers plus other like web agencies and things like that. But we've got 3 people doing exactly the same service, because we all have different skill sets and work with different sorts of clients and work with one another. And I think it's probably like anything else, any other sort of industry. It's so wide. You can't be good at everything. So yes, if you're not creative, you can still do marketing. You've been able, you're saying you're not creative, but you're advising your clients on some basic things. And so yeah, you can. Yeah. But know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and outsource the rest.
Yeah. I like spreadsheets. I'll stick to the spreadsheets.
I really don't.
I'll leave
I like words.
somebody else. Yeah. I think for me as well, I like to be able to really just see everything quite clearly, and so yeah, I do colour code my spreadsheets though, so I suppose they are creative in a way.
There we go.
Because each colour means something different, so that's my level of creativity. But yeah, I think like with all areas of business, you have your strengths and you have your weaknesses, and I think it's really important that you stick to what you know and bring other professionals in. Which kind of leads me on to my next question that we've been asked is, should I outsource my marketing or should I learn to do it all by myself?
I think it depends what you want to do and how much time you've got and what stage your business is at. I think a lot of startups try and do their marketing because they're a bit cash short. But as you move up and you've got a couple of people, 4 or 5 people in your business, it might be worth then outsourcing until you can bring somebody in if that's what you want to do. It's like outsourcing anything, isn't it? It's finding the right person to work with.
Yeah.
And I know of companies who've brought the marketing in-house because the agency they've used hasn't been what they've wanted. There are other agencies that would be what they wanted, but if they want to bring it in-house, that's great. And like I said, I'm ending up supervising marketers in companies because the company said, let's try and do it ourselves, but we're not the experts. So let's bring somebody in on a higher level to look at the plan, the strategy, and how we do this and build that out with us and check in on a regular basis to make sure it's all happening. So there's lots of different ways of doing it in-house. There's lots of different ways of outsourcing. You could outsource your graphics, you could outsource your copy and your content. There's lots of different ways of doing it. But if you're interested and you've got time, learn.
Yeah.
If you haven't got time, it's not your thing, or whatever, then outsource it, but find the right person.
Yeah, I think the mistake that a lot of business owners make is they think that they're just going to outsource the marketing and it's all got to go to one person. So I've seen this before, and I made this mistake in the early days. I gave my marketing to somebody that I thought was an agency, and it turned out they weren't an agency and they couldn't do all of the marketing. They could do snippets of it. And over the years I've learned that actually you don't have to outsource all of it all in one go. You can outsource snippets of it. So, we outsource our content writing to yourself. We've outsourced our social media to somebody else. We work with another marketing person who does the strategy. So each of these marketing professionals, as you were saying earlier, each of the marketing professionals that we work with have got a different specialism. And I think it's important when you are outsourcing to make sure that the person that you're outsourcing to is quite honest about what their skill set is. Like you were saying earlier about, you don't do branding, you work with professionals who do, and that's fabulous. But it's about working with people who have got that honesty and going, well, I'm happy to sit and write the content and do all the copy and do all the, overarching strategy, but actually all the elements of this, I'm going to bring somebody in to do this and then you can actually have conversations with those people and all work together rather than rushing to just give it all to one person and go, oh right, here's my marketing, and actually that person can only do social media or something like that. So,
and I think if you try and give it to all one person, and a lot of times, it's that difference between delegation and sort of just throwing it at somebody, abdicating it completely. Marketing is part of your business. The person doing your marketing has to understand your priorities. They have to understand your business plan. They have to be part of your business. They've got to be fed information. And when you're using an outsourced person, whether it's somebody like myself or a bigger agency, they've got to become part of your team. And if you don't realise that and don't feed them, that's quite difficult. So for the companies I'm a marketing consultant for, I actually go in at least half a day a week and sit in their offices. So people see me, I can chat to people. Just got a fantastic press release for one company it's got loads of traction because I stopped somebody in the corridor and said, how's your new job? And that conversation generated a whole load of press and all sorts of things. And I wouldn't have had that conversation if I didn't spend time in there. And if you're employing an agency that have their own premises and are external, you need to be going in to see them, or they need to be coming to see you on a very regular basis because they need to know what's going on. So if you're thinking of outsourcing and people aren't asking you about your business priorities, they're not asking you the questions to find out who your customer is, and it could be different for different services. So one of my clients we're just going down this process with, and each service head is getting a questionnaire to find out who their customer is, what their customer pain points are, because they're different to the next.
Yeah.
So you can't just abdicate. You can't just say to somebody, do our marketing. You can't do it. You've got to be involved. You've got to feed them, but they've got to want to be involved as well.
I'm laughing because I've had this same conversation recently with a client who has sort of said, right, we're going to outsource it all. And it's like, well, that's great, but what are you outsourcing? What's the strategy behind it? Well, we don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, but it's still your business. I get that it's all right to say we want to do marketing, but actually you've got to go at it with clarity of what are you wanting from it, and how is it going to be structured, and how much involvement are you going to have? Because like you said, you've got to be constantly feeding that company with information for them to then market you.
Exactly.
And that's a short-sighted way of just going, oh, here's the marketing, it's your problem now. And people do it. They don't. It's not just in marketing. They do it in all sorts of areas of the business, when they just offload it and give it to somebody else and think, well, I've dealt with that. When actually, you need that regular communication and that consistency, and again to make sure it's on point and it's the right voice and it's the right identity, because otherwise it can go off on a tangent with somebody else's ideas or their perception, and actually that's not really what you're trying to.
No, you've got to delegate it as you would delegate anything to a member of your team, as opposed to abdicating from it and just going to take that away from me. And you can see on socials, you can see companies that have got marketing agencies that aren't working as part of a team, because the socials are just very to the point on servicing. We produce this product, we do this service. There's nothing personal about it. The people in the company aren't involved. You've got to feature your people, and not just go meet the latest team member. Because again, a marketing agency can do that. There's got to be stories, and when something happens, if somebody has a baby, somebody gets married, somebody's got a new puppy, pop it on socials. It's because people buy people as much as they buy a product or a service.
Building that personal brand is really important. What would you say are your 3 top tips for authentic marketing?
Don't use AI to generate everything. 100%. Use it to research, use it to structure, use it to check your grammar, your spelling if you want to, but don't allow it to write for you. Ensure that there's some of you in your marketing, whether that's your company or you as a person. Make sure that there are images of people that are genuine people in your company, not stock images. Because people buy people. People like to see what's going on behind the scenes, and just make sure it's consistent. It's so important that you don't change tone of voice partway through a marketing campaign, or one campaign doesn't sound like, just be consistent, both with posting on social, tone of voice, your colours. The worst thing I see is somebody's got one logo in one colour on a van. Then on the website it looks completely different, and then the workwear it's completely different or something, and people go, is that 3 different companies then? Be consistent in everything.
Fantastic, that's great. Thank you so much for coming in today and spending time talking to me about marketing.
It's been a huge pleasure, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at iekos.co.uk, and it's the same on socials, iekos.co.uk.